Live from the Aviva Trattoria studio, it's the Grace Curley Show.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Grace Curley Show. We have a first-time guest here of the Grace Curley Show, Mike Crawford, host of the Young Jurks Show, which streams on YouTube, Facebook, and X, joins us now. Mike, thanks for coming on the show. Let's start with the breaking news of the day. Michael Proctor terminated by the Mass State Police. For anyone who hasn't been following as closely, he was a highly controversial figure in this trial, sent a number of derogatory texts about Karen Reed during the investigation. What's your reaction to this, Mike?
I'm very happy about it, and I feel like this is a big vindication for, the people who made this happen. It would have never happened if it wasn't for Karen Reed, Aiden Carney, and I'll put Attorney Mark Betterow up there too, and everybody in the community, because so many people have been, a lot of us YouTubers and people on Twitter, we've been looking into this, and this should have happened a while ago, but it's vindication, and thank God for Karen and Aiden Carney, Turtle Boy.
Yeah, and I wanted to ask you, Mike, because the letter or the press release that was put out by Colonel Jeffrey Noble, there was a line here that stuck out to me. He said, "I have weighed the nature of the offenses," he's talking now about Michael Proctor, "their impact on our investigative integrity and the importance of safeguarding the reputations of our dedicated women and men in the state police," before explaining why they decided to terminate him. But that line right there, the impact on our investigative integrity, is that going to become a factor in this retrial of Karen Reed? The fact that Michael Proctor was terminated because even Colonel Jeffrey Noble thought it impacted the department's investigative integrity.
Absolutely. I mean, it's at the heart of the defense on the retrial. Absolutely. And it's disappointing that Special Prosecutor Brennan doesn't want that mentioned. He's basically trying every single thing he can do to not allow Karen Reed to defend herself. So to me, that it's really outrageous with what the district attorney's doing and his special prosecutor, that they don't even want it mentioned about what Michael Proctor did. Not in another case, in this case with Karen Reed. So it's, specifically, there's no way that they can not allow that to be presented. So, yeah, it's going to be a big part of this defense, 100%.
Something I found amazing, I'm speaking now with Mike Crawford from the Young Jurks about the Karen Reed trial. Something I found amazing about this firing of Michael Proctor was his family very quickly, Mike, came out with a statement. And the entire statement really tries to reframe this as though he is the victim, he is being made a scapegoat. But there was one part of it that I want you to comment on as someone who read all these messages, watched the first trial. They said the messages, the text messages that we've all, heard a million times, the messages prove one thing, and that is Michael is human, not corrupt, not incompetent in his role as a homicide detective, and certainly not unfit to continue to be a Massachusetts state trooper. Is that what you think these text messages that we all heard, that he had to read on the stand, is that what they prove to you, Mike Crawford, is that Michael Proctor is human?
No, it shows that he's biased. He made up his mind before he even looked at the evidence. You wonder why. The apology, too, like the lack of apology. Where is the apology? Where is the apology to the state police, to the taxpayers, to Karen Reed herself? And the fact is, he sends out his wife and his sister. Why isn't he speaking for himself? It's really, I thought it was really tone deaf, and especially to paint him as the victim when, this Mass State Police, not just him either, Proctor, Mr. Tully, Detective Tully, whatever we're calling him now since he's been demoted, Buchanan, they've gone after average citizens just for speaking out, the Duck trial, all of these people that have been arrested, the police have gone to their house and threatened them. Even myself, I am not like Turtle Boy. I'm a little calmer, a little more, and I love Turtle Boy, but they've tried to go after even me. They tried to go after everybody. They threatened everybody in the community basically, and they tried to silence us. So for them to play the victim, what about all of the people that have been terrorized basically by Michael Proctor and his crew because Aiden made fun of them on social media and his website. That's really what this is all about for them. in a lot of respects with their war against Aiden Carney and Turtle Boy is that he made fun of them. He exposed what they did, and because of that, they decided to retaliate, and they decided to try to retaliate and push his supporters to turn on Aiden, which didn't happen because Aiden hasn't done anything wrong.
Mike, do you think, because I was watching a news report today and it said, whether or not either side of this Karen Read trial decides to call on Michael Proctor in the retrial, do you think Karen Read's defense lawyers want to put him on the stand again? To me, it seems like a no-brainer because some of the messages he sent were so egregious. But is there a chance that we don't hear from him?
No, absolutely not. They will definitely, my opinion is they will put him on the stand. If the prosecution doesn't, and I would be surprised if the prosecution doesn't, because if they don't, it's going to be like, why isn't your main investigator on the stand? And they even try to change the title, his name, to a different title on this case, because they know they're caught. He's the main investigator. So if the prosecution doesn't put him on the stand, that's going to hurt their case big time. And I believe 100% the defense will put him on the stand again. Absolutely. It's such gold for them to read back those messages. And what's frustrating for me is when I see Channel 5 interview the wife and the sister and they don't read back those texts. I just, a lot of the mainstream media has missed the boat on this. I want to thank you and Howie Carr for covering this. You guys also deserve huge props today because you've been covering this. You've been showing the facts of what's actually going on, where a lot of the other stations, they don't cover it the right way. They're not getting into the details. So that Channel 5 thing to me was like a propaganda piece.
Yeah, no, I would agree with you, especially, if I was sitting down with a woman and reading these texts and saying, this is what your brother or your husband sent about another woman. I mean, how do you not have, and I don't usually go that angle, Mike, as a woman, but this is one of those cases where I was reading those messages and I was appalled and I was really sickened by the way he was talking about someone, talking about finding nudes, going through her phone to find nudes. There was so much there that the fact that they could come out with a statement today and not be embarrassed by it, and not have the wherewithal to say, maybe we just will stay quiet on this and hope that, we can salvage our reputation at some point down the line. But no, they are adamant that he was the one who was wronged here. My next question for you, Mike, would be, does he get to keep his pension? Do you have any information about that? Are people trying to find out?
I haven't heard that yet. That would be very interesting to find out. I can't imagine that he should, but this is Massachusetts, right?
Right.
So I imagine he probably does. I'm not sure.
Now, I want to ask you about this retrial. The jury selection is set for April 1st. There's still dozens of outstanding motions remaining. Does this affect the retrial date? Does this decision by the Mass State Police to terminate Michael Proctor, are we going to see a delay in this trial, or are you expecting it to take off at the time that was planned?
I think the judge wants to go April 1st, but I think not the Proctor stuff, but maybe the federal appeals could actually delay it. We had Attorney Betterow on last night. He was talking about this. He thinks it's 50-50 on whether it goes April 1st, and the reason why he thinks it may be delayed is because of the federal appeal on the first trial.
Yeah, and when they talk about jury selection, even with the first trial, I remember the jury selection being a little bit drawn out, more so than you would have with a typical trial, only because so many people knew about this case. It's really hard to be in Massachusetts right now, as you're very familiar with. It's very hard to be here and not have some opinion on the Karen Read case. Now that they're doing a retrial, what do you think that's going to look like for jury selection? Are they going to be able to do it in 2 weeks, or is this going to take a long time?
I think it may even take longer, yeah. It could be, this time there's been more coverage, especially with Michael Proctor just getting fired, with TV specials, happening right now on some of the networks. So I think it's going to be 2 weeks or longer. Yes, I think it's going to be very hard to find a jury that hasn't already made up their mind.
Yeah. And the last thing I wanted to ask you about Mike Crawford is I would love if you could give us your opinion on what's been happening the last few weeks regarding the Arca witnesses and their role in this trial. Their role has been called into question by not just the prosecution, but also by the judge, who feels that Karen Read's lawyers lacked candor. They weren't honest about the Arca witnesses being paid. Walk us through what happened here and what you make of it.
Well, the big thing is the judge in the end ruled with the defense on the Arca witnesses that they are going to get to testify. And I think the most important thing to remember about the Arca witnesses is that they didn't know the defense team when they created their initial report. And basically that was commissioned by the FBI and the federal government. And so they are, from their initial opinion, independent. They were not paid by Karen Read's defense team. After the trial, they apparently did bill Karen Read's team for some time, some of the costs to go and testify. The feds had stopped paying them. So for me, and again, I'm going to Attorney Betterow because he's the expert. Last night, he didn't think that this would end up being anything as a problem for the defense team in the long run. That Judge Cannoni will probably sanction them somehow or file a note to their bar. But in the end, nothing will happen to them because this is a lot about nothing. The defense team, it doesn't seem like they really did anything intentionally wrong. Like they may have, maybe they should have said something earlier. But the bottom line is they did release the info. They did tell the prosecution. That's how the prosecutor found out. The defense gave them the information and before the retrial. So for me, this is a lot. It's almost like Hank Brennan is trying to poison the jury pool before the trial. And that's what I feel like a lot of his antics are right now. He's trying to set a different narrative because he knows a lot of people are aware there's something fishy with Karen Read. So he's trying to turn it into the defense did something shady with Arca. In the end, Arca came up with a report on their own before they even knew who Alan Jackson or anybody from the Karen Read defense team, who they even were. So that's what's most important. And they're going to testify, and they are experts, and they are phenomenal. And I think that's the big thing, again, with this prosecution, is that they're trying to go after Karen Read's experts, which are they're phenomenal. And there's a reason why they're trying to exclude them, is because they know it hurts their prosecution, that she has so many experts. She has such a great legal team. One of the things I want to bring up about the legal team is Attorney Betterow wasn't allowed to defend her, but he's one of 4 or 5 of them now. They're all top attorneys, and they're doing this pro bono now on the retrial. That just shows you how much they believe in Karen Read's innocence. Their top attorneys don't take cases like this unless they know the client is innocent. And so they believe in her, and I think that should tell you a lot about why so many top people who are experts in law enforcement. I've had so many ex-law enforcement on my show, and so many top trial attorneys like Attorney Betterow, why they're all coming out for Karen Read, because they've looked at the facts. They've looked at this first trial, and they see so much reasonable doubt. But even beyond reasonable doubt, they believe Karen Read is innocent, and that's why they're working for free. So I think that people should consider that too.
Mike, I have one more question for you, and then we have to wrap. When you watched that first trial, and I know everyone was kind of glued to their TVs or their YouTubes, and you're obviously very impressed with Karen Read's attorneys and her team there. But when we talk about a second trial, is there anything, a retrial, is there anything that you're hoping to see that maybe you didn't see as much of in the first trial? Was there any point or any rabbit hole that you didn't think the attorneys went down enough that you would like to see brought to the light in the second trial?
Absolutely. More experts, which they have this time. I think they should have a much more vigorous defense, longer. They kind of rested early. They went just for the best witnesses last time because I feel like they felt like they had won the case even from go, even though it ended up being a hung jury. So I think this time they're going to have much more witnesses. And one of the big witnesses I've been hoping for is a police policy, a police investigator to go through all the errors and missteps that Proctor and his crew made to show how badly flawed this investigation was from go, and that they basically try to solve the crime after they've already pointed the finger at Karen Read. And so I think that's going to be the big thing. We know that there's an FBI agent who's going to be one of their big defense witnesses, a new witness. And he's going to go through those, all the things that they screwed up on this investigation. And for me, looking at it at this point with the bigger picture, I don't think they're screw-ups. I think if they were intentional missteps that they did on purpose to do a cover-up. So I think that's going to be the big thing, is that they're going to have some great new witnesses in addition to the Arca witnesses, in addition to Dr. Marie Russell. They have phenomenal expert witnesses. So that's what I'm looking forward to, is seeing the full defense this time with all of these experts, and to see them tear apart what Michael Proctor, what Buchanan, what Tully did, the state police and the Canton police, what they did not do and what they did do. And it's going to be phenomenal to see that.
Well, thank you very much, Mike Crawford. Everyone follow The Young Jurks. It's at The Young Jurks, Jurks. And you can click on their link tree there to their YouTube and all of their other streaming platforms. We're running short on time. We'll be right back with Howie Carr.
You're listening to The Grace Curley Show.
We were all